Assessment submission via Ultra assignment. First and foremost, always give yourself enough time to make your submission. Never leave it until the last few minutes to submit an assessment. For an open assessment, it's advised that you make submissions at least 30 minutes before your deadline. Unless informed otherwise, do not include any identifying information at all within your submission. For example, do not include your name, your username, your student ID, your email address, and do not include your exam number. Make sure the file name doesn't identify you, and be sure to clear identifying metadata from the document you are submitting. A link to a guide on how to clear metadata from some common file formats is provided in the description of this video. In terms of the file you are submitting, be sure to comply with the assessment's requirements as to what type of file you need to submit. If your department requires submission of files as PDF, for example, then make sure it is a PDF that you submit. To make an assessment submission, first log into the VLE and then access the VLE site through which you need to make your submission. We advise using a desktop or laptop computer when making assessment submissions. Locate the Ultra assignment submission point you need to make your submission to within the VLE site, noting that it's worth making sure you know exactly where you need to navigate to well in advance of having to make your submission. If you are in any doubt as to where you need to make a submission, contact your department for the necessary details. Click on the title or box for the submission point. This will cause a panel to appear providing some details and information about the submission point. If you have an extension or dispensation to submit after the base deadline, it's important to note, depending on how the assessment has been configured, that the assessment due date and time shown may be the base deadline for the submission, not your extended deadline. Do not worry if the displayed due date and time does not reflect your extension, however. Your personal deadline will be tracked behind the scenes. You won't be penalised for late submission if you submit within the time frame granted to you, even if the submission point indicates you have submitted late. If the device you are using is set to a time zone other than the one that the university operates in, it is vital that you know and remember that the VLE automatically adjusts and displays an Ultra assignment deadline in the time zone your device is set to, not in UK time. If in any doubt about the deadline, check with your department and then double-check what the UK deadline translates to in your own time zone. Click the View Instructions button. Be aware that there can be a short delay while the submission page loads. At the submission page, if the assessment is going to be marked using an attached rubric, you can preview the rubric by clicking on the link under the heading Marking Rubric. A panel will appear displaying the primary marking criteria. Click on a criterion to view the levels of performance available for that criterion. Click the X at the top left of the panel to dismiss it. Note that if the marking rubric heading is not visible, your department has chosen not to attach one to the assessment submission point. To attach your submission, drag and drop the file you wish to submit into the box displayed below the word Submission. A panel will appear indicating upload progress. If the file you have attached is small, you may only see the progress panel fleetingly. Click the Save button on the panel that appears when upload of the file is complete, noting that clicking Save here does not submit the file. If you'd rather not use drag and drop to attach your file, click within the submission box, and then, when a toolbar appears along the top of the box, click on the attachment icon. It looks like a paperclip. In the ensuing File dialog, locate the file you wish to submit and open it. After this, the process is the same as it is for drag and drop. If your assessment requires submission of more than one file, be sure to attach all the files required to meet the assessment requirements before clicking Submit. When using drag and drop or the attachment button, you can select more than one file for simultaneous upload. Alternatively, you can add files one by one into the box. It's critical, however, that you don't add one file and then submit it before then adding another file and submitting that separately. When uploading multiple files in the same action, you won't see the Save panel that you see when uploading single files. If the file or files you have submitted can be displayed by the VLE, you should, after a short delay, see the file contents appear previewed in the submission box. If you are submitting a file type that the VLE can preview, say a PDF or docx for example, it is advised that you wait for the document to display and then look through the document to ensure it is as expected. It is worth being aware, however, that some files that can be displayed might not preview as quickly as others, a large PowerPoint file for example. If you are worried that you might submit late by waiting for the preview, complete your submission, but then re-enter the submission point afterwards to check it. If you attach more than one file, you may need to scroll down the submission box to see the preview of those attachments. Files that can't immediately be displayed will still appear by name in a shaded box. If you see a word count displayed at the bottom left of the submission box, be aware that it does not refer to the word count of attached files. Ignore this when submitting a file or files. If the formatting of your submission is critical to how the submission will be marked, and a specific file type requirement hasn't been stipulated by your department, consider saving your file as a PDF. While word processor native formats such as docx do usually preview as expected in the VLE, they don't always accurately retain their source formatting. When submitting a format like docx, it is thus doubly important to check the preview before completing your submission. Once you have established the attached material is as required, click the Submit button. Do not select the Save and Close button unless you are confident you will come back later to complete your submission. Clicking Save and Close does not submit your work. Click Submit on the confirmation panel that appears. On successful submission, a further panel will appear displaying receipt information. This receipt information is by default also automatically sent in an email to your university email address. Click Close on this panel to dismiss it or, if desired, download the receipt in text form. After successfully making a submission, it is strongly advised that you then immediately re-access the submission point by clicking on the submission point's title or box. When the initial assignment panel appears, click on the link above the View Instructions button. Once the Submission Viewer interface is displayed, confirm that the material you have submitted was indeed the material you intended to submit, and that it has integrity. For example, it looks how you think it should look when viewed in the VLE, and that it contains all the content that you expect. If you submitted material which doesn't preview in the VLE, download the material from the submission point and open it on your device locally to view it and ensure it is as expected. For example, if a zip file was a part of your submission, download the zip from the submission point and then extract it locally to check the contents are as expected. If your submission is not as expected, then troubleshoot your material and resubmit as needed. The onus is on you to ensure that any submission you make is both the intended material and that it has successfully uploaded. It's important to be aware that submitting the wrong file by accident, or submitting content that cannot be viewed, is not legible, or is corrupted, will not be considered an extenuating circumstance. Always try to give yourself enough time before an assessment deadline to make your submission. Check the submission is as intended, and if it is not as intended, be able to resubmit your work before the deadline expires. In the unlikely event that the submission point is set up to only allow one submission, you will need to contact your department to discuss making a superseding submission with them. Submitting on behalf of a group is the same as submitting individually, with minor differences in the information presented to you when making the submission. These are as follows. Instead of seeing a View Instructions button, you will see a Start Attempt button. The members of your group are also listed by name on this panel. Similarly, when at the submission screen, you will also see the members of your group listed by name. When you click Submit, you will need to confirm that you're about to submit on behalf of your group. If multiple submissions are allowed, any member of the group can supersede the current submission, and all submissions made by any group member are visible to all group members. As with individual assessments, if the submission point is set up to only allow one submission, then no one will be able to overwrite the first attempt. A member of the group will need to contact your department where you wish to make a superseding submission. To view a submission that you have already made to an Ultra assignment submission point, click on the title of the submission point and then click on the link above the View Instructions button. The submission viewing interface will appear displaying your most recent submission. If you submitted more than one file in response to a single assessment, the individual files will be available via tabs at the top of the main display area. If you resubmitted your work in the run-up to the deadline, you can view your previous submissions by selecting them from the Attempt drop-down towards the upper right of the screen, noting that this will not be a drop-down if you have only submitted once to the submission point. To download your submission, click the Download Original File icon at the top of the main display area. The icon is a tray with a downward pointing arrow. Note that if you submitted more than one file for the assessment, you will see a drop-down allowing you to select which file to download. Please note that you cannot delete a completed submission. It's worth being aware that departments will, unless you are informed otherwise, only mark the last submission you make before the deadline. Making a superseding submission is the same as making your first submission, as already shown earlier in this video. If you have already made a submission, do not start an attempt or make another submission after your due date and time has elapsed. Before we take a quick look at how to view your feedback after marking is complete, it is also worth being aware of the following. On the Submit page, you may notice that you can type or paste text into the submission box. Unless expressly told to do so, do not enter or copy and paste text into the submission box. Only submit a file or files as directed by your department for an assessment. Submitting directly from cloud storage is not advised. We are unable to easily support students with issues relating to submission from cloud sources that the university doesn't support, and, if contacted, will advise you to download or export your work from the cloud platform for submission using the primary submission method, as covered in this video. Use of OneDrive and Dropbox is not currently supported by the university, and while Google Drive is supported by the university, it is not supported as a source for direct submission of material to an assignment submission point. We advise using a desktop or laptop computer to make assessment submissions, not a mobile device. We are unfortunately unable to as easily support students with issues relating specifically to submission using a mobile device. If you are trying to submit using a mobile device and contact Central Services for support, we will usually advise you to switch to a desktop or laptop computer, especially if it is close to the submission deadline. Finally, let's take a look at viewing your feedback via Ultra Assignment. When marking is complete and you are informed that your feedback and marks have been made available for an assessment, click on the title of the submission point and then click on the link above the View Instructions button. This will take you to a page displaying your submission along with any feedback, mark and annotations made on your submission. It's worth noting, however, that you might not always see a score or percentage mark depending on how the submission point has been configured. There may just be an indication of pass or fail, for example. Overarching feedback provided on your submission can be viewed at the top of the right-hand column. If a rubric was attached to the submission point for providing you with feedback, this is displayed below the overarching feedback field, noting that it's at the discretion of your department as to whether a rubric is used. If your submission has been annotated, you will see the annotations displayed directly on your submission. Your overall score or performance indicator is displayed both at the top right and upper left of the interface. If you've submitted more than one file for the assessment, you can view the additional files using the tabs above the main display. The tab titles are the names of the files you submitted. If you wish to view any previous submissions you may have made to the submission point, use the Attempt drop-down towards the upper right of the interface. Good luck with your assessments.